focus in on some of what's going on in the Science Center world. So with that, Jennifer?
Thanks, Louis. And yeah, this is actually a rather informal session that we're hoping will spark some discussion among you all there as well. Rob Rothbarb, I know you're in the room there, but I haven't seen you yet. There you go. Okay, great. So, Rob, do you want to sort of just tag team this with you being on site there and me sort of coordinating the remote side of things, or would you like to go ahead and present first, or?
I'd like to present second.
Okay. Smart man. But really what we intended from this discussion with the Science Center focus this morning when we were putting this in the agenda was to kind of talk with folks in the room there and bring in some speakers both on-site and remotely to just tell you a little bit about what's going on in the Science Center community using advanced networking, but also to open up for more of a discussion around what are some of the unique challenges that Science Centers have in their connectivity, in program development, in dissemination and outreach to their communities, and also what are the unique success stories that we can learn about here today and also hear from you all in the audience. So you don't need to pan the camera, but just shout out if you are not Rob Rothbarb from the Exploratorium. Tell me, are there other Science Center folks in the audience there? Anyone?
Jennifer, this is
right.
Dan.
Well,
you know I play with Science Centers all the time, so.
Right. Well, that's the good segue, Dan, because obviously most of the folks there in the room and are, if not Science Center people themselves, then they're reaching out to Science Centers, either to help them understand the benefits of advanced networking and connectivity, or to reach out for content partnerships and collaborations, and that's exactly what this session is about here today. So I'm very pleased, and I feel quite honored that we have a special guest joining us this morning. He's joining us live from the Internet 2 offices in Washington, D.C. We have Walter Savlov, who's the Director of International Relations for ASTC, which, if you're not a Science Center person, you might not know, is the Association for Science and Technology Centers. And we are especially grateful to Walter for joining us today because this is also the beginning week of his annual conference, with hundreds of attendees joining on-site actually here in Philadelphia a little bit later on in the week. So Walter, we know you have your hands full this week, but thanks for taking time out of your schedule to join us, and welcome.
Well, thank you for inviting me. So you want me to start?
Sure, Walter, I just actually wanted to briefly mention that we also were supposed to be joined by David Herring here this morning, and David, as some of the folks on site in the audience there in New Orleans know, was previously at NASA Goddard and now is at NOAA Climate, and unfortunately David has caught the bug, so he's got whatever has been going around lately, and is not able to join us on site in DC there. But Walter and David and I have been working in the past year around several pretty exciting initiatives around International Polar Year. And maybe with that, Walter, if I could ask you to tell the audience a little bit about IPY, and then we can jointly maybe talk to some of the programs that we did the past year, and then I'll turn it back to you for talking about some of the upcoming programs for the future.
All right. Well, thank you again, and I've been able to watch you during your break and see coffee and tea going around. Before starting about IPY, maybe a bit about my history, and just to tell you that I have not lived at all in the technology that we discussed about today, and even some of the jargon is totally strange to me. I'm coming from a background of sociology, and so I mostly observe people and what they do and what they like to do and how that changes social practices. And there are two things that have really, over the last 20 years, interested me. And the first thing is seeing in the early 90s, when I was still in Brussels, looking these big internet cafes opening where hundreds of people could go to and use the internet, and especially late at night because it was very cheap and people didn't have all the connections at that time in their homes. And what happened there was that hundreds of kids were lining up to go to a computer, and they were standing in line for hours to be able to do that. And in such a way that a lot of tension happened and a lot of fights were going on, so that the security people who were there could not even handle that, and they had to take the bouncers from the bars at nightlife in Brussels, because they were able to physically handle the situation which the normal security could not. And so it was interesting to see that then these kids were fighting to go to a computer, and the first thing that they wanted to do when they were on a computer was to speak with someone or get in touch with someone on the other side of the world. And then they started to have a conversation. And what did they speak about? Nothing. They had nothing to tell. They were staying hours in line with people next to them physically, fighting with them and having no conversation at all. And then when they went to the computer, they wanted to go into a conversation with someone on the other side of the world, but they didn't know what to tell. So that was one experience. The other experience was when I was able to look a little bit about what science centers did in that time, in the 90s when the internet came out. I saw that they did things that they were doing in daily life and in general, in their general practice, but they just put it on the web, like they make folders and flyers and things like that, and they put it on the web. And then the first thing I think that inspired me to see what the possibilities were, how we could go somewhere, is the experiment that I saw that Exploratorium did with CERN in Geneva. And speaking about particle physics, which is a very, very tough topic, and something that the general public really doesn't like to engage with. Well, maybe recently, because we see the collider starting in Geneva, and people expect that the Earth is going to explode when the experiment is going to take place there in Geneva, but before that, no one was really interested in it. And the way Exploratorium was able to use the web to create an event about particular physics told me it is feasible. It is the way we have to go, and we have to explore further. And so that's a bit that's always been in my mind, in the back of my mind when I was thinking about creating international programs. And IPY, as you asked me about, is of course a large research program, and the outreach and education part is extremely limited. But if you will listen to the people from International Polar Year, then you would notice that they say that there is so much being created in outreach over the last 2 years that they really goes far beyond what they expected, in such a way that International Polar Year, that officially was planned to close in March next year, will not, because they want these things to go on. And as you might know, I have chosen to associate the International Science Center field with the International Polar Year, because it was an international year, and it was a common topic for all over the world for many reasons, because the poles are considered as universal good, and that there is a lot going on the poles in terms of research. And most of that research, or many other things of that research, tackle a problem that is today in the center of the discussion, which is the climate issue. And it tackles it from two perspectives, because it shows what is going to happen with the planet in a dramatic way, earlier than in many other places in the world. And it's also a place where you can learn about the past climate and gives us scientific data about the history of the climate, which reinforces what's going on today, the scientific explanation about global warming. So it has been a choice for me to focus only during the polar year on creating programs on global warming, and these have been quite successful. And then we were happy that we could find a partnership with NASA and MACPI to create one of the events, or two of the events that were during that International Polar Year. Maybe I'll say a few words about that, because I think we don't have too much time, right?
That's right.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going straight to it. The idea was to bring people all over the world and exchange about local conditions that they saw that were the result of global climate change, and to have kids and scientists be able to exchange with each other about local conditions that they were aware of. And we had the chance to bring together during 2 conferences kids from Mexico, Portugal, Australia, China, the US, UK, and Egypt, which are 7 places in the world, totally different. And for the first time, we had, as I mentioned, kids from China participating in an international video conference with Science Center, at least, maybe not the occasions they have. But the idea was that each center would present a scientific topic related to the local conditions and local indicators of climate change, and that then kids would be able to illustrate that with activities that they were doing, either to promote the science that they were learning about or to change attitudes of the public regarding these issues. And it has been an extremely successful exchange where young kids from 8, 9 years old in Australia showed how they used the school and to do a whole program about global warming and saving energy in the neighborhood and how they involved local populations into that. Or where the kids from Chicago, working with UNDRIL, which is this lab that does these ice cores from to detect the history of climate, had created interactive displays to show what UNDRIL was doing and how important it was to drill in the ice and find these ice cores and speak about the climate. And I'm not going to go in all the details, but Mexico was telling about the climate and how it is important for us here in the northern hemisphere, so to say, to take into account that it's true there is climate change and we have to save energy, but they have a developing country and they need to develop their industry as well. So we have to have a dialogue about these things in a different way. So how we built that was that we had these 7 sites we called active sites because they had contributions by scientists and by young people. But that was for them a contribution 20 minutes during this as a maximum, a 2 hours program. And the idea was that they would use that in their own science center as the core of a larger program. That means that in Australia, for example, where one of the scientists was a member of the IPCC committee, after that presentation into the teleconference, the video conference, made a larger presentation in front of the audience who was there. And they had other scientists coming in and having a discussion. That was just far beyond their participation into the conference itself. And that is what we have invited people to do, is to consider this participation in the video conference as the core of something much larger, as an opportunity for them to create an event in their own institution that would go beyond the 20 minutes that they could contribute. And that's what everyone did. In Chicago, they invited schools, and the program lasted for the whole morning, going into other parts of the museum, doing hands-on activities, visiting climate change exhibitions, and so on. So, besides that, and we have asked these people to contribute to the event before by putting the resumes of the speakers on the web so that people who will go and participate could find that, to put educational material on the web in advance of the meeting so that they could also learn new things and learn from what other people would tell us. And then besides the active side, since this technology allows us to stream the things on the web, we invited all science centers to look at it, to take it, to show it on the big screen in their science center and create an event in their science center, even though they were not active participants. And many have done that. So we have this technology that, in fact, in the beginning only was limited to have people speak to each other, being the core of something that became much bigger. And because we created a chance of having a chat on the web, people from Pakistan asked questions and people from Peru asked questions to the people who were speaking. All I'm saying here is that the possibilities of this technology they are not endless, but they give us the chance to create something that goes much beyond what we are used to do. And so we are really looking forward to develop that further. One of the things that I'm a little bit sad about is, and I hope that we can find that in the future, but it looks to me a little bit more like presidential debate kind of thing, where people speak and then you wait that they have done speaking and then you might not answer directly, and then when you have the question, you don't answer the question directly either. So I hope that we find a way that people can be a bit more spontaneous, that they can dialogue directly and react to things that happen on the screen in a more direct way. But yes, I'll stay here for that.
Walter, and because we are limited on time, I'll just say that we're doing a session, and Walter, again, has graciously agreed to join us on Wednesday as part of the session that Dan Gross is moderating on museums on internet too, and so we'll have much more time to get into some of the detail of the project and also some of the exciting things to come in the future. But perhaps with that, I'll just add that the technology that we used for the events, the IPY events this past year, we did use the Internet to Commons bridging service for both the live interactive video and also the web stream. And it worked fairly successfully, except for a small power outage in one of the sessions. But we made do despite the technical outage there.
They told me that never happens.
It doesn't ever happen, actually. So Walter, again, I apologize for that, but up until that point, it was a quite successful and interactive event. We were able to build on that. But why don't we turn it over to Rob Rothbard on site there, and then we'll be available for questions after Rob's presentation as well. So Rob from the Exploratorium.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Walter. I appreciate you talking about the breadth of the IPY project within the Science Center community. There's quite a lot of activity going on there. Thanks. And I'm going to talk just in just a moment about a project that we have also in that same space and are sharing with other science centers and research institutions.
Rob, while you're getting connected, I'm noticing that people have beads on there today. So do you have your Go Cups already as well?
Everyone's got their beads on. Too much partying.
I'll bring mine for the Wednesday session.
Too much partying on Bourbon Street, probably. Okay. I apologize I don't have a more substantial title for the talk I'm going to give, but I appreciate being invited back to this group to connect, make connections, and share more about what's going on at the Exploratorium. So for those of you who are not familiar, we're a museum of science, human perception, and art in San Francisco, California. We're going to our 40th year next year, our 40th anniversary. We have a focus on exhibit-based learning and teaching, very hands-on, interactive place. If you haven't been there, I encourage you to come and visit. I'd be happy to give you a tour. We have about 650,000 visitors annually and almost 28 million online visitors to our website. Our website and internet initiatives are very strategic and important to our teaching model and interaction model. And as Walter mentioned, in the public understanding of science, with our project about the CERN laboratories a number of years ago, we continue in that vein of providing a number of online resources that help the public understand the process of science and what happens in research laboratories. We also have a very committed program for teacher education, including professional development. Okay, great. And we have a very active webcasting program, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. And lastly, we're very involved in research and development in visitor research, online technologies, new media, and informal learning in schools, and are connected to a number of initiatives, including our Institute for Inquiry and Center for Informal Learning in Schools, which is a collaboration with UC Santa Cruz and King's College in London. One of our resources that we are in the very iterative mode of developing is our digital library series. And in collaboration with the National Science Digital Laboratory and a number of other institutions, we participate in this interchange of information, the creation of unified metadata, specifications for resources in informal learning. And we've developed a learning resources collection, which has been online for about a year, and it has about 700 resources for teachers. This past year, we did an extension to this project, specifically geared toward after-school educators and also home educators, where we've taken some hands-on activities, sort of the best of, the set of them. Procedures, activity maps, and concept maps from our digital library, and created a series of how-to videos. And these are available on our website, and we're just in a series of promotion about that. If anybody would like a copy, I've got some CDs here. Our latest initiative with NSDL is in collaboration with the Lawrence Hall of Science, ASTC, the Children's Museum of Houston, the Science Museum of Minnesota, and the New York Hall of Science, and it's called the SMILE Pathway. This is Science and Math Informal Learning Educators Pathway. This is a new educator pathway, a portal being built to be launched next year at howtosmile.org, focusing on informal learning resources. I appreciate the question that was asked earlier about social networks, and I'd like to connect that a little bit to the SMILE project. In that project, we wanted to take advantage of social networks that people had already been accessing, like Facebook. In addition to developing our own federated authentication in conjunction with NSDL resources, we wanted to tap into the APIs of the more common commodity of Facebook and see how that goes. So that's an experiment, but we hope that might be a model for tapping into existing social networks that teachers are part of. And that's coming online next year. So check it out.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I've offered fiber to Children's Museum of Houston to kind of run into roadblocks. How are they connected to me?
I actually don't know.
Because they had a very, very low bandwidth connection in the past.
Probably their participation is through contributing resources, I would think, and possibly through outreach. So the partners that we have each have a different role. Some of us are focusing on metadata, some on other aspects of the infrastructure, and some are on contributing resources and doing public outreach. So I'm not sure that they may...
Trying to empower them. We've got major fiber backbones on the blockchain.
I'd like to follow up with you later to see if we can make a connection and find out more about it. Yes?
Do you charge for these services?
No, it's completely free, and it's being licensed under the Creative Commons license for the SMILE pathway. We're in the process at the Exploratorium of migrating to that approach too, but our resources are completely free to educators. Another resource that we have, which takes advantage of some of our broadband network connectivity, is our Explo TV collection. And so we started off a number of years ago with a very active webcasting program, which at this point is an archive of about 500 programs that now includes podcasts and other video clips. So this is a media portal also in a stage of development that's starting to offer shared resources. So you're welcome to come check it out. And a highlight, now in our 5th year of doing expeditions to transmit live total solar eclipse from remote places like China, Turkey, the Caribbean. This past August, we did a live total solar eclipse from Xi'an in western China near the Mongolian border. And it was quite a active webcast for us, really challenging technically. However, it went really well. We had a tremendous online audience and lots of interest. We experimented more in this particular event with getting people to comment, to interact, to engage, to post images on Flickr, to share their stories about sun watching, shadow watching, watching eclipses, and our website is an archive of that. I'm going to show just a couple of seconds of the highlights while I talk about the next part. One of the things that we do when we do a remote expedition is we create a viewing experience in the museum, a public program with lots of people who come, sometimes spending the night with us as they did with the total solar eclipse.
Down to about 40-foot candles.
I just wanted to give a sense of it because showing a live interaction with a live phenomenon from a remote location through presence and through video transmission is still very powerful, and a lot of people say if I can't see it with my own eyes, it can't be as exciting. But if people come to the museums, the tens of thousands of people who watch it live online around the world, and in a moment I'll show you another way that we extended the public program.
Mercury and Venus, the corona is reaching out away from the sun. Oh, it's really gorgeous. There's in the sky. And the amazing thing is that we have this dark circle in the middle of the sky. And around us is like sunset, all the way around us, the circle. Oh, here we go. We've got the corona. You can see on the right side of our image some of the lines of the magnetic field reaching up around.
So that's the voice of Dr. Paul Doherty, our senior scientist out in the field, commenting on the phenomenon directly. And that's one of the things that the Exploratorium likes to do, is to mediate the experience, to help people get more in touch with what they're seeing and to have a deeper understanding and to engage them in a conversation about it. What I wanted to do along this complex signal path was take it one step further. When we were having a public program overnight in our museum with about 500 or 600 people, I wanted to push it even further into a collaborative space on the internet. And so in 2006, the last time we did a total solar eclipse from Turkey, we experimented by putting the program into Second Life, a live transmission into a 3D virtual world with people with various levels of telepresence, with their voice, with chatting, with 3D avatars representing their body. We're watching and interacting with other people. So the power of being able to experience something directly with other people, the social aspect of it, is really what we were trying to engage there. And so here's just a couple of moments of the solar eclipse as it appeared in Second Life. Still a live transmission. We created an environment. There's some yurts. These are exhibits that explain eclipses. You can actually take a ride from the Earth to the sun and wave at the moon on the way. So what we like to do with exhibits in Second Life is put people directly into something that they can't do on a 2D webpage. It was pretty engaging. We had about 150 people. Average viewing time for a video program on the internet is measured often in minutes. For the program in Second Life, the people who came participated for well over an hour. So we find it's really engaging and promotes a lot of deep interaction. These are some of the other exhibits on our island in Second Life about this solar eclipse. And so now I want to talk just for a couple of minutes about Ice Stories, which is an IP-wide project that we're doing in collaboration with a number of universities to help tell the stories of field research. So this is in the strand of the public understanding of research that we do. Dispatches from polar scientists. We trained a number of scientists who are working at both poles. And for the field season last fall in Antarctica, a number of really terrific projects, as Walter mentioned, like IceCube, Andrill, the South Pole Telescope, from even some really remote places in the South, in Antarctica. And this past summer, we trained scientists in video production, audio production, doing podcasts, sound stories, writing articles, transforming their work into something that the public and educators and students can understand a little bit better. We had a point of departure from Barrow, Alaska. We used Internet 2 networking to assist in the IP transmission of video from Barrow and out in the field, also with another team in Greenland. And we just finished training another set of scientists who are embarking on an entirely new field season starting in November in Antarctica. And I encourage you to check out our website, look at their dispatches. A lot of people are commenting. They're posting things daily. It's very dynamic and lively site. And lastly, I wanted to just introduce a new project which we've just launched. And this is in the public understanding of scientists. It's called Evidence, How Do We Know What We Know? And in this project, we wanted to engage the public in the process of science, the provisional process of science, for them to understand the steps that scientists go through to do their work, and to understand that that science discovery and theories and practice is a process, and that it is provisional and can change. And this particular project uses a case study in human origins that we did in collaboration with the Evolutionary Anthropology Institute at the Max Planck Institute in Leipzig. Again, going to a laboratory where science and field science is happening and showing the stories there of what the scientists are doing and the process that they go to. We wanted to give people some tools to understand stories of science in their everyday experience. There's some widgets, there's podcasts, and a second ago you saw an application called My Evidence, which is a way for you to create your own personal knowledge map of how you understand what you believe. And I just want to mention something that's a very big project, not so much from the building aspect of it, but what it means for us to connect more with the Internet 2 community educator group is that in just a few short years, the Exploratorium will be moving from its location of 40 years to the waterfront, the piers in San Francisco. So from one historic location at the Palace of Fine Arts to another historic location with a maritime focus. And engaging the public through the internet, through advanced networking, and connecting more with research scientists in the field, with research vessels that might be coming to the San Francisco Bay Area, and for scientists to use the Exploratorium as a point of departure and an interaction with the public about their work out in the field is an important goal for us. And so we're excited and looking forward to that. So thank you.
Questions for either of our panelists? Or Jennifer?
Great, thanks.
Thank you. I'm sure you'll have other
I just
questions.
want to thank Walter again for joining us, Louis, before we disconnect. So Walter, thanks again. We'll see you on Wednesday, and thanks to the Internet 2 staff there for supporting your remote participation.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.
And if you have other questions for Rob, I'm sure you'll see him today. And